Let's play the intro.
Buckeye Nation, welcome to the Buckeye Cast, your only commercial-free Ohio State football podcast. These guys were born and bred in the Buckeye State, and they like to talk Buckeye football and drink bourbon. Subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your podcast. Now, pour a drink and pull up a stool. Here's your host, Joe Warwick.
All right, folks. We appreciate you all joining us. We are awaiting our special guest, President and CEO of the Chick-fil-a Peach Bowl, Gary Stokan. As soon as he joins, we're going to jump right into the interview. And looks like he's joining right now. Mr. Stokan.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
Really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule for us.
Sure. Glad to be with you. Thanks for having us.
Of course, anytime.
I like that logo over there.
Yeah, I did that just for you.
Thank you.
Dressed her up nicely. But we really appreciate your time today. I do have my co-hosts. I'm Joe. I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida. I have Jeff and Sean. They're my co-hosts. Jeff is in Orlando. Sean is in Detroit, Michigan. But we all grew up in the same small town in Ohio. So that's why this is an Ohio State podcast.
Where in Ohio?
Tiffin.
Which is?
Northwest, about an hour south of Toledo.
Okay. I grew up in Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. Little East Ohio / Western PA.
Western
close
PA.
Close to Roethlisberger.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's where we grew up. We grew up near Findlay, where Roethlisberger was born. Yeah.
Well, I have a lake house down at Lake Oconee in Cuskawilla, which is a golf community, and Roethlisberger has a house down there on Lake Oconee.
Awesome.
Nice.
That's him, and I think Charles Woodson are the two most famous people from our neck of the woods, anyways.
Two
Charles
pretty
Woodson.
good ones.
Yeah, decent. Right. So how you doing tonight?
Yeah, doing great. Just doing some media after the CFP selection show. So
Right.
It's the playoffs have started.
Exactly. I know this is your busy season, right? Getting ramped up for January, or not January 1st. I shouldn't say that. December 31st.
Yeah, a lot of people think we work one day a year just on the game, But we, matter of fact, we were in Charlotte yesterday meeting with the ACC schools in the office. Tomorrow we'll have a conference call with the Big Ten at 10:15 to talk to all their schools.
Yeah.
Which Ohio State will be on that call as well. Just going over our institutional guide to talk about, what our schedule is, where the practice sites will be, the hotels, et cetera, et cetera. So try and get as much work done in November as you can, because obviously the teams are playing their games, but once December hits and you got the conference championship games and then the announcement the next day, man, it just flies. So,
right.
You got signing date in there. You got press conferences to do. You got to get everybody loaded up for getting ready for the bowl. So,
exactly.
It goes pretty quick.
Right. So you're meeting with ADs or?
No, it'll be the football operation directors, the assistant AD in charge of football.
Yeah.
Those two will be on the call from each of the schools.
Okay. I always wondered, as the president and CEO of the Chick-fil-a Peach Bowl, do you have a lot of communication with the CFP committee at all? Or is it basically, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, most definitely. We meet typically, we'll meet in where all the bowls meet. We meet once a year. We have a download meeting with all the departments. So all the marketing people in the New Year's Six with CFP will meet in one room. All the PR people in another room, all the events people in another room, the finance people in another room. So we do that in early April, and then late April when the CFP and the commissioners meet, we meet in Dallas late April.
Right.
And we meet with CFP, we meet with ESPN. And we'll probably have some meetings set, right after, if the decision's made to move the expansion of the playoff to 24 and 25 before this contract ends.
Right.
We'll be meeting with the commissioners and CFP then probably as well.
Right. All right. I always wondered if you guys dealt with them directly, or if it was more of just here's your teams, here's your game.
Well, it's interesting. A couple points about that. Number one is, I remember in 2014 when we had joined the CFP, us and the Cotton Bowl had joined the Fiesta Bowl in having contracts directly with the CFP. So the Rose Bowl has contracts directly with the Big Ten and the Pac-12.
Right.
The Sugar Bowl has contracts directly with the Big 12 and the SEC. And the Orange Bowl has contracts with the ACC, Notre Dame, the Big Ten, and the SEC. So they have their own contracts, but we have our contract directly with the CFP. So I remember calling Bill Hancock after being in charge of selecting our teams for the Peach Bowl, Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl all those years. And I said, Bill, you're going to call me Saturday night and tell me who we have, right? And the selection show was on Sunday. And he laughed and he said, Gary, you will find out what teams you have when the rest of America finds out.
Nice.
So we're like you. We sit on Sunday. This year will be the same thing. We'll sit on Sunday like kids waiting for Christmas to open our presents to see who we host. So we don't know who we're going to have until the selection show comes out.
Yeah, that's amazing that you guys have to wait just like everybody else. I do have a question, though. I want to hit you with a hard-hitting, tough question. I realize I read that you might have a house divided this past weekend in a Tennessee versus Georgia game. Who did you cheer for?
Yeah, it's interesting. My one daughter went to Tennessee and my other daughter went to Georgia. And I think my daughter smoked a cigar after the Tennessee beating Alabama. And then I still don't know what the bet was. They haven't told me what the bet was between my two daughters. So I don't think they're talking though, but we're going to try and get them together. We got everybody coming over our house tomorrow for dinner, including my 4 grandsons. So
awesome.
We'll get them talking and find out, hopefully what the bet was.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that you had rivalry going on just this past weekend. It was perfect timing, right?
Oh yeah,
in a big game,
a huge game. I didn't go over because I wanted to watch it on TV, and I wanted to watch LSU, and I wanted to watch Ohio State, and Michigan and the other teams. And but my friends that went and some of my staff went said it's the loudest they've heard, Sanford Stadium. Even with the rain, nobody left. Tennessee and Georgia people didn't leave,
right?
But they've never heard it louder. So must have been an awesome experience over there.
I felt the energy coming through the TV, honestly.
Yeah,
I've never been to Sanford Stadium, but it really felt crazy. Like there was a buzz all like throughout the game.
Yeah, it's awesome. And that's what's great about college football. Haven't been to the Horseshoe. You get that same perspective. The fans are just, we have the second most favored sport in this country, only behind the NFL in fan avidity. So college football is on the rise. For all those people asking for a playoff, we feel the playoffs going on right now. I just saw TV ratings for Tennessee, Georgia was 13 million, which is the most viewed game this season.
Right.
And, interesting. I did some research on the TV. Ohio State, Notre Dame was third up until this week. And that was the first week of the season. Our Oregon, Georgia game and our Chick-fil-A kickoff game was sixth. And that was a 49-3 score. And LSU, Florida State, which was that nail biter with a missed extra point, was fourth.
Right.
So, that's how people just are adamant to watch college football that first week of the season. So, it's a great time to be a part of college football, and we're blessed to be a part of the New Year's Six.
Yeah, definitely. we're kind of traditionalists here when it comes to like bowl games. For me, I think Jeff and Sean can chime in if they like, but I feel that moving the games off of New Year's Day is a little awkward for me, but I understand why. I know it's all about ratings. I mean, it's about eyeballs. When can you get the most eyeballs on your games? And how do you feel about moving games off of New Year's Day, especially yours, for example?
It's a great question, Joe, and I think it's going to be a challenge for the CFP moving forward with the playoff. It looks now like the first round games would be played somewhere in mid-December on campus.
Yeah.
And one of the process they're going through to make sure they can play those games on campus, because in some of these small markets, you've got commencement and final exams going on. So to have a football game, you may not have enough hotel rooms. So that's one of the things they're working their way through. It looks like the quarterfinals would be January 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the Rose Bowl is going through machinations of, how that would work for them.
Yeah.
And then it looks like the semifinals will be January 8th, 9th, somewhere in there. And then the finals, the championship games, probably in that third week in January. But as you move further on in the schedule, you're going to bump up against the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
They start their wild cards in late December. So
right.
It's, unfortunately, they're probably going to need to be during weekdays instead of weekends. And it's a shame because college football owns Saturday, just like NFL owns Sunday.
Right.
But I don't think ESPN and the TV people want to go up against the NFL, which typically, if you look at the top 100 broadcasts on TV of events, the NFL probably has about 88 of the top 100.
Right.
We have the NCAA Final Four, semis and championship game, the CFP national championship, 2 semis, maybe a Rose Bowl in there for college football.
Yeah.
But the NFL is just huge TV ratings. And, this weekend I mentioned the 13 million viewed Tennessee, Georgia, and 7.6 million for Alabama, LSU.
Mm-hmm.
That caused the Major League Baseball World Series to go down in their ratings.
Right.
Because they were lower than the Tennessee, Georgia game. So that goes to show how big college football is across the nation.
Right. And I assume that you think it's only going to get bigger with the expansion to 12 teams, right? I mean,
I think you're right, Joe. I think it'll cause more interest because you have more teams across the country. Even this year, we're seeing, it's nice to have Tennessee back and TCU and Oregon and USC and UCLA to join the Ohio States and the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Michigans there, because, the breadth of east to west across the country just adds to more viewers. And when you layer on top of that, more teams, probably 30 to 35 teams, will still be in the hunt in November for those 12 slots. So it's just going to cause interest levels to go, I think, even higher.
Exactly. Do you feel, off of that vein, do you feel that it diminishes at all the regular season because teams can get in with 1 or possibly 2 losses?
Yeah, I think that's why you're seeing a lot of ADs. We started the kickoff game format in 2008, and, we've been very successful with it. Kind of changed the face of the start of college football. Now, even though Notre Dame's playing at Ohio State first week of the season, you wouldn't see that in the past. But I think the ADs are looking at the expanded playoffs saying, okay, we can schedule a tough home and home non-conference game because if we lose one in the conference and lose a tough non-conference games with 2 losses, we can still get in the playoff of 12 teams. So I think that's good for college football, seeing more, home and homes. It's going to probably diminish the inventory for our neutral site, Chick-fil-A kickoff game, but that's okay. Whatever's best for college football. We just took advantage of a scheduling addition in 2008 when the NCAA legislated a 12th game to the schedule. So I think, those things are all good for college football.
Yeah, I agree. I think more important games can't be a bad thing.
That's exactly right. More competition at a higher level.
Yeah.
Now, it'll be interesting to see, having said that, what the ACC and SEC do with respect to their conference schedule, because
exactly
with the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the Big 12 all playing 9 conference games, will the SEC go to a 9th game in the ACC? They have a little bit of consternation over losing those rivalry games like Georgia, Georgia Tech, Florida, Florida State, Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, I can see that.
Who's the other ones? South Carolina, Clemson, Georgia, Georgia Tech. So, there are some built-in rivals that they don't want to lose those games. So if you have those plus a 9th conference game, now you have 10 really tough games. It'll be interesting to see. And I think the other thing is, will they move the schedule up to week 0?
Right. You kind of have to, right?
Well, some of that's going to be dictated by, can they get the okays on campus to have those games that second week in December? If they can't, then they've got to move the schedule up, probably play the conference championships in Thanksgiving weekend, and then play the first round, in early December before the commencement and the final exams. Right.
Yeah. A lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts in this.
It really is
expansion. Yeah. And you may even at some point, I'm thinking about it from a player's point of view, think about an extra bye week at some point throughout the conference schedule. I know you're going to get some time off after the holidays and all that before your bowl games and your playoffs start, but it seems like you're asking the players to play an NFL schedule at this point.
Yeah, if you can get a week 0 start, you could probably build another bye week in.
Yeah.
If you can get that second week in December where you can run the first round games on campus, which wouldn't be a bad thing for everybody.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I would love to see Georgia, Bama, LSU come up north and, see how they fare. I mean, games will probably be in Indianapolis or Detroit. I doubt they're going to play mid-December games in Columbus or Ann Arbor or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm not sure what a lot of the ADs like the opportunity to host a game on campus because then they can package that game with a potential season ticket for the next year.
Right.
So their season ticket sales would go up.
Yep.
So that's what I'm hearing. A lot of ADs really want the games to be on campus.
Right.
And, it'll be interesting to see with weather how that fares out. But, that may be part of the answer for the expanded playoff.
Right. I'm going to let Jeff throw a question in here. Jeff, you have your question ready?
Yes, I do. How you doing, sir?
Jeff, how are you?
Pretty good.
Are you in Detroit or are you in Florida?
No, I'm in Orlando.
You're in Orlando, okay.
Yeah, Orlando metro area, Orlando. Just had really appreciate your time tonight. Just wanted to know real quick what this Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl semifinal game really means to the city of Atlanta, like the event itself, the magnitude of it.
Yeah, it's a great point. Coming out of COVID, it's really important to the tourism industry, the hospitality industry. Our 2 Chick-fil-A kickoff games and the CFP semifinal Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl will bring in about $100 million of economic impact. And that's huge.
Wow.
When you consider Atlanta is the 4th largest convention town in the United States, Jeff, behind you, Chicago, and Las Vegas. And so 4 of the top 6 conventions on an annual basis in Atlanta are typically the 2 Chick-fil-A kickoff games, the SEC championship game, and our Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. So, that's how important college football, is to the city of Atlanta.
That's one of the best things I love about the South is their appreciation for college football, for sure.
No doubt about it. I grew up in Pittsburgh. You guys grew up in Ohio.
Right.
They had the Bengals and the Browns and Steelers, but down south, we didn't have pro sports till 1966 in Atlanta. I mean, think
That's
about
crazy.
the Browns and the Bengals and the Steelers were around since they started in 32, I think the NFL, somewhere around there.
The AFL, yeah.
Yeah.
30s, 40s. Yeah.
That's how long that. And so what happened
Generations.
is the college teams were the NFL teams in a lot of these markets in the South.
And they still are, it seems, right?
Yeah, they still are. That's exactly right.
I'm not sure I could meet somebody in downtown Atlanta and they could tell me the starting quarterback for the Falcons, but I think they could tell me the starting quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
And probably the LSU Tigers and probably the Auburn Tigers. And
That's
probably
right.
the
Alabama.
I tell you though, what's interesting
about all the competitors.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is that, I think it was last year, JT Daniels, I know he didn't start for Georgia, but JT Daniels, he did it one time. He was at Georgia. Bryce Young was at Alabama. CJ Stroud was at Ohio State. And DJ Ungule was at Clemson.
Right.
And all four of those were from California.
Yep.
Now, 10 years ago, all those kids would be at UCLA, Oregon, or USC.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think, the adjunct of the BCS, which led to the CFP, has caused this nationalization of college football, and where kids want to go to play, where they can play on the biggest stage in the national championship format.
Yeah.
So, it just goes to show the breadth and the depth of college football across the country and the interest in it.
Definitely. I agree. I think 7-on-7 camps and how recruiting has blown up across the country definitely adds to that. Travel has become much more easy over the last 20 years. So I think
now you got the transfer portal that adds a new dimension to all of it, right?
Yeah. That's a different type of transportation.
Yeah. I think I read where it was some obscene number that I would have never believed, like 40% of the starting quarterbacks in college football this year were transfer students. Wow. It's some nice. Crazy number. It's probably somewhere that you can look it up, but
I think you're pretty close to 40 there. I think you're pretty close.
Yeah. It was crazy.
It's an outrageous number.
Yeah, really is.
Yeah. So I don't want to keep you too much longer. I really appreciate your time tonight.
Sure.
I would love to get your opinion on the new top four. And if you want to dig into the top six, that's fine. But
yeah, I was able to do the mock selection a few years ago down there in Gaylord, Texas, in the room. And, it's really an interesting process. It's a great process they have. And what they do is they ask you to come in, everybody to come in with your top 25. And then they ask everybody, okay, put in your top 3. So everybody inputs into the computer, and then the computer spits out what the consensus was. And then they say, okay, give us your next 4. And then they do the same thing. And then the next 4 and the next 4, and then you get to 25. So then they print out the 25 and everybody looks at it. And if you believe that someone has been misranked, so to speak, you have to make a case for that. And then if somebody has to agree with you to open up redoing the rankings.
Okay.
So it's really an interesting process. And I'll tell you, by doing it first 3 and then next 4 and next 4, instead of trying to figure out 25, you really can take a close look at who beat who. And what they have is computers set up where, let's say you want to look at Tennessee versus TCU. You can't decide who should be 4th. On the computer, they'll put both teams next to each other, who they've played, who they beat, their offensive ratings, defensive ratings. They've got all kind of analytics.
Right.
So it really makes it easy for you to make a decision. So it's a great process that they have. Okay. Certainly, they did this week, all 4 teams are undefeated. They're the only undefeated teams, in college football. we still have a lot of college football to play. As we saw this week, 1, 4, and 6 all lost. So, it's college football. Anytime you have a game on the field, you never know what's going to happen. So, we'll just have to wait and see how it all shakes out.
Right. I want to give Sean an opportunity to ask you a question here.
Sure.
Sean, what is your question for Mr. Stokan?
Yeah, Gary, appreciate you coming on the show here. And yes, I'm the one up here in enemy territory up in Michigan.
Yeah.
But my question to you goes back to what you guys were kind of talking about earlier. But on this playoff expansion, I rant and rave. Do you think this is the right number? I think it should be either 8 or 16. I don't like the 12. You were talking about home games for colleges. I feel like why punish the top 4 without home games? I know they get the bye, but I mean, college football is campuses, and I'd love to see more of that. Just kind of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I believe the committee of Jack Swarbrick and Greg Sankey and Bob Bowlesby and Greg Thompson, they looked at the staying at 4. They looked at 8, they looked at 12, they looked at 16, and they just felt that 12 was right. You go to 16 and all of a sudden, you add another game. I think college campuses being on site, they considered playing them all in bowl games. But I think they wanted that college campus experience. The tough thing is, in the first round games of 5 versus 12 and 6 versus 11 and 7 versus 9 or 10 and 8 versus 9, those kids aren't going to have a bowl experience. Yeah. If you lose that game, your season's over. And so I hate that for the kids because, I played basketball in North Carolina State, and I still remember, I'll tell you a quick story. We went to New York to play in the NIT, and we practiced, and my coach, Norm Sloan, said, "Okay, boys, get your shower. We're going to Broadway." Well, we're 18, 19 years old, never been to New York. And to go to Broadway, we all got excited. And he says, "Yeah, we're going to go to a Broadway play." And we said, "Broadway play? We didn't come to New York to go to a play." And he took us to the best little whorehouse in Texas with Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton.
Awesome.
And I will tell you, I'm 67 years old. From that day, when I was 19 till this day, whenever I'm in New York, which is once or twice a year, I will make time to go to see a Broadway play because it opened my mind up, because I had never seen a play. So
That's
just
awesome.
a small example of, how you can get exposed to something through a bowl trip, that you may have never thought you would have done. And all of a sudden it changes your life. So I hate that there's not going to be a bowl experience for those kids in that first round game.
Yeah.
I always love the when these bowl games come to any city, really. It doesn't have to just be Atlanta, but when the team is there for a week, they're doing all the charity events and stuff. They're visiting kids and in the hospitals and stuff. Those always get me. Those are tear jerkers.
We have a theme we use of live, laugh, and learn. And we want the kids to live great, to get great gifts, eat great food like Chick-fil-A, practice at great facilities, stay in first-class hotels. And then we want them to laugh. So we have a battle for bowl week every night. And we have a 40-pound WWE belt. And there's a competition every night because all kids want to do is compete against each other and rip each other and laugh. And, so there's a competition and you win that belt every night and you get to keep it overnight. And then you have to give it back the next morning because the next competition. And so the kids laugh during that. Then we have the learn part is we take them to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta where, those kids didn't get out for Christmas and they're never going to get out of that hospital. And so for the kids and the coaches to give some good cheer during the holidays to those kids and their families is really important. And then you're not supposed to do this in the bowls, but, we take both teams and put them together. And we have them sit together in Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is the church where Martin Luther King was pastor and actually spoke from the pulpit.
Oh.
And his mother was actually shot playing the organ in that
Wow.
that church.
Whoa.
And in the past, we've had Congressman Lewis, Ambassador Andy Young, C.T. Vivian speak to the kids, and it's very moving. And you know, I remember a black kid got up at the end and he raised his hand. He said, "Congressman Lewis, thank you for what you've done, because without what you've done, I wouldn't be sitting here. My family wouldn't be where we're at." And he told Congressman Lewis told the story of he was in charge of the student movement because he was the youngest of the top 8 with Dr. King. And when he marched across the Selma Bridge that day, he said, "You know, I put on a backpack." Well, all these kids are sitting in the pews with a backpack on. So he instantly connected with them. He said, "I put a toothbrush, toothpaste, a book, and an apple in my backpack because I knew I was going to jail."
Yeah.
And he got to the crest of the bridge, and Hosea Williams, who was next to him, looked over the crest of the bridge and saw all the state cops with guns and bats and on horses. And Hosea said, "John, can you swim?" And John said, "No, I can't swim." Hosea said, "Well, I'm thinking of jumping off the bridge and swimming over." And Congressman Lewis said, "Well, I can't swim, so I'm marching." So he marched over. We've all seen the video. He gets cracked on top of the head. He's bleeding. He's got a concussion. He said, "You know, I didn't get rushed to jail. I mean, I didn't get rushed to the hospital. I got rushed to jail." And, you know, all of a sudden now these kids are sitting on the end of their seats because this is a living history lesson. These kids weren't even born. Their parents may not even been born yet. And then C.T. Vivian follows that up with, he told his wife one night, he says, "You know, honey, I'm not going to come. I'm not going to be home tonight." She said, "Are you going to stay in the hotel?" And he said, "No, where we're going, I might not make it out." Right. And so it just gives you a perspective of, you know, what we're all living through. And, you know, and then the kids get a chance to ask questions. So that's part of that learning process that, you know, you wouldn't get that going to a campus, right? You'd only get that going to a bowl site and having the bowl experience. So,
and these are 2 opposing teams sitting right there in
there
the
are 2
pews next
opposing
to each
teams
other
sitting there, but instantaneously
that are
they're
gonna go
one
to battle tomorrow.
Yeah, they connect through
That's
it
awesome.
all. So, we're humbly proud. And, you know, we were created in 1968, the 9th oldest bowl game, and we were created for charity for the Lions Lighthouse, which provides sight and hearing to underprivileged. And, you know, we've maintained that mission. We've given $60 million away since 2002. Which is a record for all bowls, all 44 bowls. We're the most charitable bowl organization in the country. So, you know, we use football as a means to an end. We have 7 trials at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. We gave them $20 million to find cures to eradicate childhood cancer, because only 4% of the National Institute of Health budget goes to childhood cancer. And we have 7 trials with 12 kids in them now. And for you to get a kid in a trial, you have to test the drug through animals, and then you have to test it through adults because the toxicity level is so high. And then you can test it through kids. So, you know, we're hoping that at some point we can find a cure for one of the cancers, whether it's neuroblastoma or leukemia or whatever, you know, with the help of the doctors at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta.
Right. Yeah, I love the charitable side of all the bowl games, and you guys are obviously leading the way and have been. But we really appreciate your time tonight. And,
great to be with you, Joe and Jeff and
Sean.
Appreciate your time, sir.
Stay warm up there, Sean.
Yeah, it's getting cold. It's starting.
Yeah.
I know what that's like. Growing up in Pittsburgh, I'm a damn Yankee. I came south and I'm not going back up north.
We're staring at this hurricane about ready to come at us here. We'll see how
East
that
Coast,
goes.
Yeah, that's right.
So the East Coast goes next couple of days. So
yeah, be careful, Jeff, down there. We're gonna get some of the rain, but I know you guys are gonna be in the middle of it.
I'm over on the West Coast, so on the West
Gary,
Coast.
Orlando's in good shape.
Gary, I had one final question for you, Gary.
Sure.
Are you going to be the person that hands Ryan Day that trophy?
That sounds like a loaded question.
I'll be on the stage, but I let our chairman, our volunteer chairman, hand the trophy to the head coach. I give
Fair.
the offensive MVP award, and Andrew Cathy or Dan Cathy, who are the CEO of Chick-fil-A, will give the defensive player of the game.
All right. So,
I think I can speak for the Buckeye Cast. We so hope that we are in that Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, but unless we're playing Georgia in it, then that's a little dicey.
Yeah.
Well, we'd love to host you guys. If you come down, we'll get you a tour of the College Football Hall of Fame. You'll have a great time. So
awesome.
And again, if
We'll
you
be
need
there.
us as we get closer here, don't hesitate to call and set something up with us. We'd be glad to join you again.
I really appreciate you.
sounds great.
Anytime you want to come back on, you're more than welcome.
Enjoyed it, guys.
Thanks.
Good luck
All
the
right.
rest of the season.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.